Hi everyone, how are you doing today? In today's video, I'll be going over 5 tips of how to shoot B-roll by yourself. It's a rainy day, we're heading up north to the cottage here in Ontario. So hopefully it doesn't keep raining the entire 2-3 days that we're gonna be up there. And hopefully I also get to catch some of the fall colors. So I hope you can find some of these tips helpful, as I know a lot of people shoot B-roll and shoot videos by themselves. Not everyone has the budget to hire somebody, and not everybody has friends who are available all the time to come and shoot B-roll of yourself. So let's get going. Alright, so we're finally here after two and a half hours of driving, and it's still raining, but the forecast says that the rain might stop for tomorrow, so we might have a good and clear day tomorrow. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I create weekly content on filmmaking, photography, gear review, and editing tutorials. If you think that's something you'll be into, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And thank you so much for those of you who are already part of the crew. Let's talk about what B-roll really is. Over the last few years, the internet has really changed drastically the concept of what true B-roll is. So B-roll or B-reel is actually supplementary footage that you can use to intercut along with your A-roll or your main footage. So for example, in a documentary, the A-roll will be the actual interview piece, and then B-roll will be the insert shots, any of the effect shots, any of the establishing shots, any stock footage, or any pickup shots. But for some reason, over the last few years, the internet has changed the meaning of B-roll. Specifically YouTube, B-roll has now changed to these really cool cinematic montages that are full of speed ramps and a lot of cool transitions and effects. Don't get me wrong, I really like watching and creating these sort of cinematic B-roll sequences, but the name should have been called something else. Maybe cinematic montage, cinematic sequence, but for now, B-roll it is. But in today's video, I'll be giving you tips on how you can shoot B-roll by yourself. And I'm talking about the supplementary footage kind of B-roll, the one that you can use to intercut along with your A-roll or your talking head shot. So the first tip I want to talk about is stabilization. If you're just shooting regular B-roll, not of yourself, you could probably get away with shooting handheld and shooting in slow motion or IBIS turned on your camera. If you're shooting B-roll of yourself, you're gonna need something to keep your camera stable for you. There are a few alternatives for this. You could use a Joby GorillaPod. They have legs that bend very weirdly, so you can use that to mount on different places such as trees. You can put this mini Gorilla tripod in pretty much any terrain that you can imagine. You can also use a gimbal that has its own legs, so you can use that as a stand. Wait for that plane to go by. The second tip I have for you is to shoot your scene 3 times if you can. So you can shoot it once in the wide, once in the medium, and once in the tight shot. The reason why you want to do this is to add variety to your shots. You could have just one shot of 10 seconds, but what if you can have 3 shots? So now you can have the same scene but cut to in 3 different angles, and that will make your shot a lot more interesting. Relating to this tip as well is, if you can, try to shoot in different focal lengths. Focal lengths are not just about how zoomed in you are of your subject, but different focal lengths have different properties altogether and have their own look and feel. If you'd like to learn more about focal lengths and their properties, let me know in the comments below, and I might make a video about it later in the future. I like to shoot mostly with zoom lenses because you can zoom in and out quickly and use different focal lengths without having to switch lenses altogether. And I know prime lenses are overall more sharp, but when you're in a run and gun scenario and you don't have too much time to change lenses, or you don't want to carry too much to your shoot, then having a zoom lens is a good way to go. I also come from a wedding cinematography background, so being quick and nimble and being able to capture the moment without fiddling around with too many lenses is also my thing. One important thing about zoom lenses though, you need to make sure that you have a zoom lens that does not change the aperture on you as you zoom in. A lot of kit lenses do that. Alright, so the third tip is to get establishing shots. So you have to get footage of your surroundings to let people know where you are and be able to push and move your story forward. So drone shots are very useful for establishing shots because they can give you that really cool super wide aerial shots. But if you don't have a drone, you can just get wide shots of the location where you are and sort of establish the scene for the viewer. You actually see establishing shots quite a lot in movies when they begin the movie or when they transition from one location to another one. So make sure you always get wide shots of your surroundings to establish your scene. The fourth tip is to get creative with your angles. So try low angles, high angles, overhead angles if you can. Try shots at eye level and think outside the box to get a bunch of different creative angles. The more different types of angles you have, the more interesting your visuals are going to look. When you're pushing your story forward or your video forward, you want your angles and your visuals to look entertaining and not to be boring. So look at your surroundings and look at different ways you can capture the same thing. Try to find unexpected angles or shoot from objects, shoot through objects, try to find foregrounds that can help you add depth to your shot, and just think outside the box when it comes to shooting on different angles. And the last tip that I have for you today is to add subtle movement in post. This is particularly useful if you're shooting B-roll of yourself by yourself. Most likely your camera is going to be on a tripod without any movement. You can make this footage look a little bit more exciting just by adding scaling keyframes or position keyframes in your editing software. One thing to keep in mind though is to keep this movement subtle so that it's not distracting. Something simple like this is going to make a lot of difference in your footage. For this, I'll also suggest that you shoot in 4K so you have that extra little bit of wiggle room to punch in your footage if you're exporting it in 1080p. So these are all the tips that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're already subscribed, thank you again so much for watching. And that is all for today, guys. Until next time.